extra size of them size way. Extra broad, extra broader than Broadway.
Good evening, everyone. This is the meetup regarding the introduction of two new Merlyn.AI indexes, and one of them is a Surfer Dude index. This is a remake of the original recording because unfortunately we had connectivity and audio troubles. At that time, we used the chat feature to collect questions and then answer them later. Of course, we must have the obligatory disclaimers. So don't base any investment decisions solely upon materials in this presentation. Neither Subgrowth Strategies nor I are registered investment advisors or broker-dealers. This presentation is strictly for educational purposes and is not an offer to buy or sell securities. Information is educational in nature and is not to be construed as investment advice and is not provided in view of the individual circumstances of any particular individuals. Investing in securities is speculative. You could lose some or all of your money. Past results are not a guarantee of future performance. And of course, always consult with a registered investment advisor or a licensed stockbroker before investing. For those new to us, we are a little bit complicated in our structure. So a quick review. In 2010, we launched SectorSurfer for individuals, a subscription-based service where you pick a set of ticker symbols, and it's the algorithm's job to determine which one, and only one of them, might be the good trend leader next month. In 2017, we expanded that service with a little different user face for financial advisors. In 2019, we launched a sister company, Merlyn.AI Corporation, with some investors, and its purpose is to license the technology of some growth strategies, that is SectorSurfer and AlphaDroid, create ETFs, and market them. Hopefully this diagram will help to explain things. So some growth strategies, or SGS, contain SectorSurfer, AlphaDroid, and our new index providing service for the purpose of delivering that to an entity that may use the index, such as Merlyn.AI Corporation, which licenses technology from some growth strategies, raised interest from some investors, and create and sponsor ETFs. To do that, you find that all of the underlying activities to actually operate an ETF are very complex. For that, Merlyn.AI has an association with Alpha Architect, who is effectively what they call an ETF white label service provider, and they have the relationship with the custodian, with the market maker, the stock exchange, Quasar, the distributor, which is associated with FINRA, the regulatory agencies that lets you know what you can say and can't say, and of course the Securities and Exchange Commission. So all of this activity is what it takes to support the actual implementation of an ETF sponsored by Merlyn.AI Corporation, licensed from some growth strategies. There you go. I'd like to also introduce Philip Scanland, the newest member of our overall team. He will be the Vice President of Sales at Merlyn.AI and is a wholesaler, which is a Series 7 licensed professional who can actually discuss licensed securities, such as ETFs. Because of the nature of financial regulation, Philip will technically be working through Alpha Architect, who is a financial advisor. In any case, if you're a financial advisor or even individuals and are interested in ETFs associated with any of our indexes, Phil Scanland is the guy to talk to. His contact information is below. So welcome on board, Phil. I'd like to explain just for a moment why we say ETFs have tax efficiency. And it's because they deliver long-term capital gains tax efficiency as opposed to short-term capital gains that you get when you do all of the trading yourself. So if you do the trades within the ETF wrapper, they become long-term capital gains. That was first provided for mutual funds, I think, in the 1970s. Let's say, for example, you owned a lot of shares of the Fidelity Magellan Fund, and you wanted to, for some reason, move your account over to Charles Schwab, but you can't take Fidelity Magellan over to Charles Schwab. So that means in order to sell it, it would have to be a taxable event. What Congress provided for us was this exchange in kind provision, whereby investors were allowed to ask their brokerage for an exchange in kind, in which case Fidelity would deliver the underlying shares of stocks to the client that were held by his mutual fund shares. And as an exchange in kind, it became a non-taxable event. The individual could take these shares and then go over to Charles Schwab and apply them there without having the taxable event just because they wanted to move their account. The folks who designed ETFs employed this principle very smartly. And what that means is that within the ETF wrapper, there is an attempt to do all short-term trading using the ETF exchange in kind principle. So for example, you as an investor deliver cash to a broker, and in response you get ETF shares back. But how did the ETF broker get those ETF shares? In order to do that, the ETF broker takes cash and on the open market buys the underlying securities for the ETF, all the individual stocks, and then delivers those individual securities to the ETF issuer in exchange for ETF shares. That's how he gets the ETF shares. Likewise, in reverse, the process is the investor returns the shares to the brokerage. The brokerage returns the shares to the ETF issuer, gets the underlying securities in exchange for that, takes those underlying securities to the open market, gets cash, and then delivers you the cash. This process allows you in 1 year to buy ETF shares that have perhaps 20 particular underlying stocks. And then some number of years later, when the exchange goes the other way, the ETF may at that time hold a very different set of stocks. So from a tax perspective, for the investor, it comes down to, at one point in time, you paid X amount of dollars, got Y amount of shares, and some number of years later, you sell those shares and get cash in return. And underneath inside, all of this exchange in kind activity takes place. And so for you, it becomes a long-term capital gains transaction, and everything that happened inside the ETF wrapper creates no taxable events for you. This is an amazing gift that Congress provided for investors. Particularly if you have a taxable account, long-term capital gains is much better than having done all these trades yourself and having them be short-term capital gains. Very briefly, for those not familiar with some growth strategies, our technology is based on momentum. And personally, my first momentum strategy was that of buying Money Magazine once a year and taking a look at the listings and determining which of the Merrill Lynch mutual funds were doing the best and moving my money to those. How did that strategy do? Well, over a period of 7 years, the market doubled, but my IRA funds lost 5%. That was problematic, so I started looking into things, and pretty soon I found that there was a thing called momentum in market data, and in 1993 it was basically proven by Jagadish Tietman. As a good signal processing engineer, I also noted that Claude Shannon of Bell Laboratories proved in a 1946 paper that signal-to-noise ratio controls the probability of making the right decision. And as you can see in this nice little graphic down here, getting rid of some of the noise on your windshield can help you see something on the road ahead. Seeing even a little bit of the road changes everything. That begs the question, how do you clear the windshield? Turns out that another fellow, John Van Vleck, a Nobel Prize winner, in 1948 developed what he called matched filter theory. This is a methodology that determines the optimum design for improving the signal-to-noise ratio of a particular kind of signal and demonstrates very clearly that the simple moving average used by the industry of 12 months or even 6 months, which is equal weighted, actually is a very poor performer compared to what matched filter theory comes up with, which is something more like this smoothly humped curve. It's like trying to take a square Model T car down the freeway at 75 miles an hour. Clearly, something designed for highway speeds is much better. Additionally, signal processing engineers all know there's such a thing as differential signal processing. Audio engineers also know this. It's very important for the connection of microphones and keeping noise out. And that was developed in 1836 by Samuel Christie. And you can apply that to the markets. And finally, in this chart here, which is 10 years, and it shows the monthly moving average trends of the S&P 500 in white and various sectors in other colors, where this down spot here is the 2008 market crash, then if you're wanting to beat the market, then you have to select and own the sectors that are beating the S&P 500 at the time. This means that a sector rotation strategy or a momentum strategy is the way to go. Now, if you look under the hood of your sports car, you find that there's a whole lot of doodads under there, and each one has a job to do because there's a lot of things to take care of. Your sports car doesn't have just one single big piston that does everything. Simplicity doesn't get you high performance. Similarly, in the marketplace, simplicity in strategy does not get you high performance either. You have to deal with a lot of things. What I'm going to show you here is a quick sequence of a lot of simple improvements makes a huge difference. Each one contributes in a little way, but you need all of them to get the full high performance. Here we're starting with a sector rotation strategy. Here's a bunch of spider sectors, and we start with a 1 year or 12-month simple moving average. And this painted path tells us which one of these funds we're owning at a particular time. And by using the 1 year simple moving average, we end up with an equity curve or performance shown here relative to the S&P 500 in white. Not a lot of improvement there. So let's go through the sequence, starting with the 1 year simple moving average, and then saying, let's apply matched filter theory. Oh, now we're up here. Then we note perhaps it would be good if we could find a way to get out of the market during these market crashes in 2002 and 2009. And if we simply apply what is known as the death cross, which is the 50-day over the 200-day moving average, that's very helpful. Better than that is to use a more sophisticated algorithm, which looks at multiple aspects of the market, which we call StormGuard Armor, does a much better job. But why sit out of the markets in cash? Perhaps you should go into bonds, or maybe treasuries, or maybe create a bear market strategy to pick between the best of bonds, treasuries, and gold, and maybe even a more aggressive one of those. You see, each incremental improvement makes a huge difference. There's a big difference between this, and if we go back, just sticking with the simple moving average. That is the basis for our underlying technology. You can dig in and read all about it in my book, Conquering the 7 Faces of Risk. You can download a PDF copy for free. Just enter the name of the book, Conquering the 7 Faces of Risk, add PDF to it, and you'll see it there online for download. If you want to cozy up with a book by your nice warm fireplace this winter, then Amazon can help you with that. In the big picture, on the bottom line, this is how the new indexes compare with the existing indexes. The new indexes are the SectorSurfer Momentum Index and the Best of Breed Core Momentum Index as compared to the Bull Rider Bear Fighter and Tactical Growth and Income. While the Bull Rider Bear Fighter Index is an 80-20 index, meaning 80% equities and 20% bonds, which you can see over here. It has 8 underlying strategies. 20% of the weight is in bonds and others are in equities. The Bull Rider Bear Fighter backtest performance comes in approximately here. Whereas the Tactical Growth and Income Index is a 30-70 mix, meaning 30% in equities and 70% in bonds. The new indexes, the SectorSurfer Momentum Index, is very aggressive, and as you can see here is all sectors, 4 economic sectors and 2 geopolitical sectors. That's like countries and regions kind of a thing. So very, very aggressive. The BOB-CM, Best of Breed Core Momentum Index, is also aggressive and contains a sectors, factors, and global strategies. But Best of Breed here means that each underlying fund that it selects must have at least $10 billion of assets under management. The Best of Breed Core Momentum Index is targeted specifically to help financial advisors as they set up their standard array of portfolio offerings for their clients. Clearly, the SectorSurfer Momentum Index is for those going for the gusto. Now let's take a look at where information can be found about the new indexes. First, there is our index page, www.maiindexes.com, MAI for Merlyn.AI, so maiindexes.com, and the page looks something like this. Starts out with some information and then starts listing the indexes, which go down further on the page. The second place to get information would be from www.Merlyn.AI.com. This page is really part of SectorSurfer and AlphaDroid, and Merlyn.AI is both a technology and a company. So this is the technology side. You can see the 4 index icons here, and as you go down the page, there's helpful videos and such, and then eventually direct information for finding the underlying strategies and portfolios on both SectorSurfer and AlphaDroid for advisors. The third place to find information is on www.Merlyn.AI. So Merlyn.ai is a full URL, just like a .com. And this is the page of the company Merlyn.ai Corporation. And its page starts out saying that Merlyn.ai is both technology and a company. So clicking on the technology side actually takes you over to here, and clicking the red buttons along here actually take you to Merlyn.ai Corporation's ETFs. And you can see as you go down the page, then you see the listing of the new indexes. We'll now go to each of these to see what's there. And then we'll specifically go to SectorSurfer and AlphaDroid and show you how to use these indexes in our subscription services. To be clear, all of our published indexes employ the Merlyn.AI genetic algorithms. So the new guys, SectorSurfer Momentum, Best of Breed Core Momentum, employ the same AI genetic momentum portfolio manager that is used for the Bull Rider Bear Fighter and Tactical Growth and Income. The strategies are evolved, walking forward in time, specifically to eliminate hindsight selection bias, which is like getting rid of Monday morning quarterbacking in selecting your team. The MAIindexes.com page is the richest source of information for our published indexes. As you scan down the page, there's some general information, followed by brief descriptions and links for each of our published indexes, and then followed by a set of short videos and other information to help understand the background for each of these guys. So the 2 new indexes are the SectorSurfer Momentum Index and the Best of Breed Core Momentum Index. And so if you click on any of those guys, you come to the specific index page. This one for SectorSurfer Momentum. Scanning down this page, again, general information, followed by a more detailed description and chart. However, to see the chart, regulatory bodies require that we ask you to confirm that you understand the meaning of hypothetical performance. So when we click that, then you can see the entire chart. This is the first page of actually the more complete document, which can be found here. Clicking this brings us to the full index page, which starts out with a description, which consists of saying there are 6 underlying sector strategies, 4 of which are economic sectors, and 2 of which are geopolitical sectors. So this is a very aggressive 100% stocks, 0% bonds strategy. Through the document, there is detailed description of all the background technology, how this thing works. Here's the portfolio model hypothetical performance, which is really quite good. And as we go down further, there's some more background information here. Further and further down, we find individual charts for the 6 underlying strategies. The first sector strategy, the second sector strategy, the third economic sector strategy, fourth, and then finally 2 geopolitical sector strategies. The geopolitical sector strategies, of course, are talking about such as Europe, South America, countries, and the like. Now going back to the index page itself, there is a lot of other information about the hierarchical structure, description of how things work that you'll find, including an SEC required methodology document that you can download and examine. And finally, towards the end, indications of 3 ways to invest in the index. Likewise, we can find the best of breed core momentum index also listed with very similar layout and information. On the Merlyn.AI.com page, which is the technology page for Merlyn.AI, as we scan down, we see a lot of general information and then a lot of very helpful videos about the background technology. And then we come to a table with 3 tabs, one for SectorSurfer, one for AlphaDroid, and one for Merlyn.AI. So in the SectorSurfer column, this refers to all of the underlying strategies for all of the different Merlyn.AI portfolios, the 2 new ones being the purple here, Merlyn SectorSurfer Momentum, Economic Sectors 1, 2, 3, 4, and Geopolitical Sectors. By clicking any of the little thumbnail charts, we can see a SectorSurfer style chart for that underlying strategy. If we click the purple button, it takes us to a page with a full description of that strategy, the underlying components, all of the detailed statistical information, and how you can import that strategy into your SectorSurfer account. Under the SectorSurfer Momentum strategies, we have, of course, the best of breed core momentum strategies, of which there are 3, sectors, global, and factors. While these above here are the individual strategies in the portfolios, down here in the lower portion we find the actual portfolios. So the SectorSurfer Momentum portfolio chart would be right here. And you can see the allocation weights and the underlying strategies named. You can see them plotted there and all the wonderful statistics. And there is a corresponding SectorSurfer page for the portfolio, as we can see here. And from this portfolio page, you can go to the individual page of any of the underlying sectors. Again, instructions on how to import it into a SectorSurfer account. Similarly, if we go to the AlphaDroid tab, we see the very same kind of structure, except for that it takes us to AlphaDroid pages. Now I'm going to demonstrate how to add this SectorSurfer Momentum Index to an AlphaDroid account's portfolios. So first, click on New Portfolio to create a blank portfolio. We'll save that. And then when we search down at the bottom, we see the new portfolio has shown up. And if we click the P icon, so that we can select a portfolio to import, we could search for it by name by simply entering sector into the text search box. It finds all portfolios with the word sector in it. The MAI SectorSurfer Momentum Index is the only one. So let's click it and say Use Selected. And we agree that we have responsibility. And now it's busy for a moment. Oh, it asks us, it says the following strategies are missing. So it's looking at the underlying strategies and asks if we would like to import them. Of course we would. It can do all that hard work for us. And in just moments here, it has loaded the portfolio. So here's the MAI SectorSurfer Momentum Index. We can look at its chart. And we see that it's just exactly what we expect, with the right amount of risk and return. And the underlying strategies, if we hover over them, it's telling us what they have selected. ICLN, JK. That's all it takes to import the new portfolios. We could, just for fun, real quickly, add one more. Okay, we're going to add one more. And it's going to this time be the best of breed core momentum. So here's our new portfolio. And let's put in best. Search for that. Oh, look at that. MAI, best of breed core momentum. We select the button at the bottom. I take responsibility. It adds gigasectors, gigaglobal, and gigafactors strategies. I click OK. It gets inserted into my portfolio list. And there it is. Let's take a look at it. And everything we expect is there. That's all it takes to import one of these indexes to an AlphaDroid account. Now let's take a look at how to add these indexes to a SectorSurfer account. SectorSurfer is a little bit different because it doesn't have a formal portfolio structure. So let's start by just importing strategies. Specifically, let's bring in the strategies for the best of breed core momentum. And we know they begin with the word giga. So I click the blue S for select a strategy. And since they all begin with the word giga, if I just put in giga, I should get them all, and there they are. So let's take the first one. I click use selected, and it puts it in there. Let's go get the second one. Click use selected, bring it in there. Click the third one, use selected, bring it in there. If you look at the chart of any one of these, you should see all of the things you expect. It's also important to understand that when you bring these in, they are master strategies. That's what this little M signifies and this asterisk signifies. They're strategies that you cannot edit yourself. They're very complex. They're plumbed into SectorSurfer from the Merlyn application. But if you want more documentation on them, when you click the blue information icon, you see there's nothing much you can do, but you can click on that button to get more details about all the underlying stuff. So you can see everything you need to see, but you can't change anything because they are master strategies. Okay, so there are 3 of them within the portfolio for best of breed core momentum. And if we want the whole portfolio in here, we have to create the portfolio with a little bit more difficulty than we do in AlphaDroid. To create a portfolio, all of the information you need to do that can be found by clicking first the SectorSurfer Info tab underneath the Advanced Topics. Make a portfolio of strategies topic is right here. Okay, let's go back and actually just do it. So we're going to go back to my strategies. And all you have to do is start a strategy with P colon, capital P colon. That tells it that it's going to do a portfolio analysis as opposed to a strategy analysis. A strategy looks at all of your candidate ETFs and picks the best one for the next month. A portfolio, on the other hand, looks at all of your candidate ETFs and says, I'm going to own all of them in some particular allocation weighting. So a portfolio owns some of everything, and a strategy owns only one thing from among the group. So here we start with P colon. It tells it's going to do a portfolio analysis. And the important trick here is identifying the strategies that you want to contain. So let's start by giving this a name. So we'll call this the best of breed core momentum. We'll just do that. And then you identify strategy number 7 simply by putting S7 for strategy 7 and then an allocation weight. Because of the simplicity of the system, you can put an allocation weight in an integer format from 1 through 9. The instructions will explain to you better on how to select that if it's not immediately obvious. But it's going to add up all the allocation weights for all the 3 strategies, divide by the total, and come up with a percentage. And since I want to do a 35, 30, and 35 percentage, so then if you divide all of those numbers by 5, for example, then you would come up with the integers 7, 6, and 7. So we're going to give this one a weight of 7, And I can just go on to the next one with the comma and do S8-6, comma, S9-7. That looks good. Say use selected. And we see it did the proper thing. Let's take a look at the portfolio. And it says Giga sectors at 35%, Giga global at 30%, and Giga factors at 35%. And if we just want to look at the portfolio itself with the individual components in the background, we just click that yellow or painted control up at the top, and we see it's exactly what we're expecting in terms of CAGR and relative risk. Excellent. And that's all it takes to create a portfolio of the best of breed core momentum in SectorSurfer. Thanks very much for watching this seminar, and may the surf be with you.